Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King 2. And today I'm going to be giving you part 15 of What If Naruto Had a New Dream That Will Change Everything. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual. Share this to all of your friends on your social media platform. And also guys, go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto was personally trained by Kurama after leaving the village. And go ahead and enjoy that guys. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King 2 and Anime King 3, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking about to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what is to begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last spot we left off, as Yakaski came to meet, realizing that Hidan would still be a valuable asset of the organization just to use him as a muscle, Obito went to get him. After Naruto had left, Obito made his way. That was the wrong thing for him to do, as the moment he stepped inside the chamber, he lost the ability to use the Kamui, as all space, all chakra in the air was nullified. He tried to escape by pressing his eye up against a wall of field that was there. There was an inch of radius that he could use his chakra, but Naruto came in and stopped him. As he couldn't do anything, his arm went limp. As he couldn't circulate chakra through the Hashirama cell arm to move it. As Naruto narrowed his eyes on man, he even introduced the man to Zana. After all, this was the main reason why he couldn't, or no one could find the nine-tailed fox. She was able to walk around in human form that surprised him to no end. As Naruto found out who the man was, after he mentioned Ren, as Kakashi came to mind, as he asked him, seems like Kakashi, well, longtime teammate didn't actually die. Seeing no reason to put Kakashi through this hardship, or cause up this turn of trouble, Naruto decided to just keep this to himself, as Obito slowly died as the chakra was seeped from him. As the man couldn't believe that he failed. Well, at least he will see her once again. But he failed his plan to change the world, as he died. As Naruto looked at this strange hand, it seems like he had a lot more to go over. Time passed as Naruto was training, as he was mixing his water affinity into the Rasengan. Well, it went off wrong as it exploded. As the small needles of water pierced his skin, he was found by Envoy team who heard the explosion. Zana came to the hospital as Snaddy and Jiraiya already berated him for doing something so stupid. Jiraiya, seeing Zana, mentioned what kind of babe she was, as she was in the mood as she knocked him away as he flied through the window. Snaddy had to keep herself cool because Zana, well, didn't show her an inch of respect. Despite, well, she understand the reason though, as Naruto was in trouble, the woman just wanted to make sure he was okay. As Zana was quite angry at him, but Naruto hugged her and told her he will never do it again. When they finally made their way back home, Zana realized that she was, well, panicking way too much, as she realized how much she loved the blonde. As she saw his memory, she saw everything going black after his body has been turned into mincemeat by those water projectiles. As she was afraid, and now he wanted to go and learn Senjutsu. She knew about Senjutsu and that he can turn the user into stone, as she was worrying. But Naruto told her that everything was going to be okay, as he didn't want to see her sad. And he would never leave her if he had anything to say about it, as she just held on to him. Making his way as Naruto tried to find another way of Idan's immortality. He had already came up with several thoughts about the drawback, as Naruto was looking at his strange arm as well. Having his clone cut into the arm, Naruto found out that a tree grew from the arm, as it was some strange plant-like material. Yes, it was indeed connected to the first Hokage, for what reason he didn't know and how the man got it. For now, Naruto had Senjutsu training to do, as Hidan told him that to leave him alone. He didn't want to be, well, unconscious for the time being. Seeing that Naruto's already here, Hidan could figure out a way to escape while he was not. Yes, that would be the best chance of escaping. As Naruto told suit himself, he made his way to give Tsunade the bonsai tree. After all, it was a nice tree, and not to mention it came from her grandfather's cell. For some reason, he found that amusing as he meets Zoe. So yeah guys, so it's basically as for the thought. You guys can switch across to the place and check out for yourself. So what do you say begin this new episode? Kisame Itachi, have you located the Yanbai yet? Pain asks, as he once again called Akatsuki meeting, as the members of the Akatsuki was there, all gathered, in their hologramic form. Not yet. The Yanbai Jinjulki tend to live like a hermit, and move erratically around the Earth country. It will take some time to capture him, said Itachi. Hey, why isn't Toby here? Asked Kisame, as he noticed his absence, and he was curious to why Madara wasn't present. After all, Kisame knew who Toby really was. Zetsu had discovered that Hidan is being held by the Kyuubi Jinjulki, and Toby went to extract him, said Pain, as he paused. But he did not return, and I can no longer sense him through the ring. Silence descended as everyone processed that information. No one was under the illusion that Toby was anything but dead. Itachi didn't really care. If Sasuke was still alive, he would have been relieved that Madara was now dead. But no, it didn't really matter. Nothing much mattered anymore. Konan was relieved that Madara was dead. She never really liked him or trusted him, and the way he twisted Nagato over the years had made her hate his guts even more, as she knew that Madara was, well, having his own methods that he was planning on doing, as she believed that one day he would betray them for his own goals. After all, she never thought that his plan coincided with Nagato's. That is why she created that trap. 600 billion explosive notes set aside in case they were ever needed. As far as she was concerned, the Kyuubi Jinjulki had done them a favor. Kisame was a bit saddened by the news. He placed his faith into Madara and his plan to end the world of lies. But it seems like Madara insurances towards that plan had also been a lie. Not an intentional lie, but a lie all the same. Nagato was relieved as well. Despite his Rinnegan, Madara was able to teleport to his real body and kill him if he wished. Now, Akatsuki will be led as he wished and not under Madara direction. Know that Akatsuki was under the leadership of God once again. The world will be brought to peace in an understanding of pain. And when they forgot that pain, he would refresh their memory and bring about another period of peace. Zetsu, the black half, was furious. The damn fool had gotten himself killed and now Madara's plan was in ruins. Madara had recruited Obito as a backup plan in case Nagato proved too difficult to control. There was only so far a man could plan when near death, and Madara had known that. He was able to see how Nagato would turn out after he had transplanted his eyes in him. And Obito was the best backup pawn. A pawn meant to control another pawn. Obito was able to control him with subtle manipulation and being able to kill him quickly. After all, the man could teleport anywhere. But now that fear was gone. Pain would never resurrect Madara of his own free will, as Zetsu was certain of that, and there were so many holes poked within his plan. All thanks to the Kyuubi, the blasted Kyuubi of the Jinjulki and Obito idiocy. There was a way to get the Sandaime out of the ocean. That was not a big problem. The plan was, at this moment, all of Madara's plans were no longer achievable. Well, as Zetsu thought about it, Pain couldn't even resurrect Madara even if he wanted to. His body was crippled and weak, and Madara has been dead for quite a while already. It will take an incredible amount of power to resurrect his creator and restore his youth. It will be a waste of time if Pain used her intensity to reverse the decay on Madara's corpse, only to have the strain of technique kill him before he finished. And that wasn't even adding in how much power it will take to resurrect the legendary Uchiha into his prime. He will have to improvise and hope something could be done to solve this disaster. The Kyuubi Jinjulki is clearly more dangerous than we have assumed. Everyone is to stay away from him until we gather all the other Bijus. When the time comes to steal a Kyuubi, Uzumaki Naruto will fall before God, said Pain. Everyone nodded as their holograms started to disappear. Timeskip, Tsunade, Shizune, and Zena was currently relaxing in Konoha Hot Spring. Normally, the demonists wouldn't bother to socialize with other humans, but here she was. Tsunade had saw the redhead look sad and worried when they said goodbye to Naruto, as he was reverse summoned to Mount Miyaboku, so she decided to invite her here, along with Shizune. It has been a few days since he left, and they finally got everything organized enough so they can go. Zena has been feeling, well, anxious about how he was doing since he left. She could still feel through the Reaper that see like he was alright, but he was agitated about something. Annoyed with the possibility of him turning to a statue, because that was the only thing she could think about at the moment, she accepted Snady's invitation. Still, she had to admit Snady wasn't as bad as far as humans go. So, I've been wondering, how did you and Naruto meet? Snady asked. She had already asked Naruto, but this was a chance to get a woman's perspective on it. And some details. Oh, he was 10 years old at the time. And some of the village idiots had broken all the windows in his apartment at the time. He was pretty much freezing to death when I found him and took him in. Snady and Shizune's face darkened when they heard that. They were aware that Naruto never had a good childhood, but it didn't bother him, and he didn't speak about it much, so it was easy to forget about it, but now hearing these things. I didn't expect him to propose to me, but he has always been surprising. She said that smile, remembering some of the things he has done over the years. That must have been awkward. Snady said that snicker. A little. He would visit me every day after that. Sometimes I had to take care of any wounds he got from training, because he had a habit of overdoing it most times. All three of them could clearly remember Naruto almost brushed with death because of excessive training. Well, I'm glad that he had someone like you to take care of him when he was little. He's grown up into a fine man, even if he's a pervert, said Snady, grumbling a bit at the end. Despite her usual dislike of perverts, it was hard to dislike Naruto. Well, at least he didn't pick on women when they were bathing. Well, the fact that he's a pervert make it even better. It's something I spent many years encouraging, said Zana. But why? Snady asked in surprise and confusion. Because it is so much more fun that way. You can ask Shizune all about it, Zana said, as she smirked towards Shizune, who was rather silent. Shizune had been quiet so far, just enjoying the hot water, but feeling a bit of envy towards Redhead. Her envy was from her small chest size, and her lack of romantic partner. Snady turned towards Shizune and raised her eyebrow. Shizune sank into the water until only her eyes were visible. Come on, Shizune. Do tell. Snady said with a smirk. She knew this one had to be good. I walked in on them, in the hospital break room. Snady couldn't help but burst into laughter, as she remembered what kind of plans Naruto and Zana had in their mind that day. They put you in chains, and made you watch, didn't they? Said Snady through her laughter. It's not funny, said Shizune, her face burning rather hot. Alright, I'm sorry, said Snady, as her laughter died down. Did you get mocked for being turned on too? Snady-sama, said Shizune. Snady started to laugh once again. Damn it, she will certainly start to see the appeal of Naruto's sense of humor. Watching people die of embarrassment is hilarious. You wouldn't be laughing if it happened to you, said Shizune. Well, it didn't happen to me, said Snady, with that smug look on. Oh? Zana moved forward as she pressed her chest against Snady's and putting her arms around her at the same time. I'm sure we could accommodate you just as easy, Snady. Who knows, if you live up to your nickname as being a legendary sucker, you might even get to join in on the fun. Snady tried to squirm away, but Zana kept her pain with surprising strength. That's quite alright. I think getting put in chains by Naruto once already was quite enough, she said uncomfortably and tried to get away. Are you sure? I'm sure you'd enjoy yourself, and you can compare it with your apprentice experience, Zana said as she leaned closer. Quite sure, said Snady, as she managed to break free, as she heard giggling, as she glared at Shizune a betrayed look. Shizune ignored the look, feeling happy that Snady had gotten embarrassed as well. How does it feel now? Snady scowled to herself lightly. It really wasn't all that funny what happened to you. She looked towards the redhead, to tell her not to do that again, only to see the woman lift up a stone the size for her fist. Before Snady was going to ask what she was going to do, Zana threw it as it broke through the wall that separated the male and female section of the hot springs. A high-pitched scream came from the other side. Snady instantly recognized that scream. It was Jiraiya when he got hit in the nuts. She has been the cause of that scream several times. Zana walked towards the wall, completely uncaring about her nudity. As she jumped on the wall, she grabbed Jiraiya and pulled him over to the female side. Normally, Jiraiya would consider this paradise, but he was far too busy clutching his testicle. He couldn't even see anything as his forehead was pressed in the ground and he was in a kneeling position. Jiraiya Snady said in utter fury, fully prepared to kill her ex-teammate. He started to sweat at the murder in her tone, but he was in far too much pain to even consider moving. He could only hope that his death would be swift. But Zana placed her hand on top of Jiraiya's head to prevent him from lifting it. Oh Jiraiya, what a dreadfully perverted hobby you have there, Zana said. He tried to raise his head on instinct, but her hand kept his head lower to the ground. All he could see was ankles that was quite naked. At the moment my hands is between my legs, Jiraiya. Do you like the sound of that, said Zana. Oh yes, Jiraiya did like the sound of that. But the pain set back in from where the stone hit him. Please stop, he said. But I thought you liked these kind of things, she said. I was even looking forward to posing your book. I would have posed any way you wanted me, completely naked. As he was getting too excited, and that was just causing him more pain. Would you like me to give Snidey a kiss? Just imagine it, Jiraiya. Both of us pressed together, with our tongues intertwining. You're a demon, Jiraiya said. A demon! As he tried to calm himself, but he was shaking, as the thought was getting to him. I know, she said. The thought about what Naruto's gonna do to you when I tell him about this is getting me excited. Unable to take it anymore, Jiraiya run, his legs spread comically wide as he made his way away. Snidey looked at Zana, feeling impressed. Beating the crap out of Jiraiya was one thing, but using his own pervertness against him was inspiring. She was almost tempted to introduce her redhead to Ibiki, but she decided not to. Probably wasn't a good idea. Meanwhile, Hidan pulled at the chains holding him, trying to slip his arm out of the manacle. It hurt like hell, but it was worth it if he could just get free. So far, he was having very little luck, but he had to keep on trying. If he could just pull his arms out, he was going to find the person had his sight and kill the blonde apprentice just to spite him. He wasn't sure if he could make it to the village, but he would take as many of them as possible down. If he did get captured by anyone else, he was going to tell them that their Jinchuriki wasn't a Jinchuriki, but he was a mad, sick, twisted scientist. Meanwhile, a staff slapped Naruto across the head and knocking the energy that he just gathered. You gotta focus, Naruto-chan. Peace, calm, balance. These are the things that you need to master. Toad, style Senjutsu, said Fukazaku. As Naruto's eye was twitching violently, who the hell that senile Toad thought he was calling Naruto-chan? The small baby Toad didn't even come up to his knee. He was starting to get really annoyed by now. Training in Senjutsu has just been getting slapped over the head, listening about lectures of peace and harmony, and eating bugs. He was pissed as hell at Jiraiya for failing to tell him to bring his own food. In addition to that, doing this Senjutsu the way that Fukazaku was teaching him just felt wrong. The part about being still was bad enough, but finding inner peace and letting go of worldly concern, that he could connect himself to nature, was even worse. It was pretty hard to let go of worldly concern when you want to be immortal. If you want to abandon all worldly concerns, you will have to commit suicide. That was much better than trying to trick himself to think that he didn't care about anything concerning him in the world. Amusing enough, even the Toads were embarrassed when it was time to cover him in Toad oil, seeing that Naruto had stripped down naked. He just didn't see any point in getting his perfectly good pair of underwear soaked in oil. On a side note, his hair was covered in oil. He felt like he could roast a whole pig by just wringing his hair out. Shaking off his irritation, he tried once again. Gathering the natural energy, he could immediately feel the way it tried to change him. By accepting the energy, he was also taking in the nature. Since he was in a mountain with Toad oil and Toad-related things, it tried to turn him into a Toad. That was what the energy was used to after all. It had no sentience of its own. It gravitated to what the human tried to take on heavy nature energy. And if the human could harvest it, he would turn into a Toad statue. Zana had told Naruto that she had learned from the wolves that Senjutsu came more easily to those who were similar in nature after all. The Toads could learn Senjutsu at Mount Miyamoto quite easily, but they would have a difficult time learning it at Ryuko Cave. That was where the home of the Snake Clan was. She also told him that the first Hokage was a sage as well. That was not really common knowledge to everyone. She didn't really know where he had learned it, but considered the man Mokiton, he might have learned it himself. Maybe he just sit down the forest somewhere and accidentally discovered it, for all anyone knew. It was only natural that he would be close to nature, concerning the Mokiton, so it wasn't far-fetched. Naruto was not a Toad, and truth be told, he didn't want to be a Toad, as he decided to do things his way. What did the old Toad know anyway? He never did anything normally, so why should this be any different? As he moved his powerful chakra around the natural engine and tried to force it into submission, it fought back, struggling to stay the way it was. It didn't want to change, it didn't want to flow in a way that it wasn't used to. Well, that was too bad, it was his body, and this nature chakra will obey. Whack! He was whacked over the head once again. You can't force nature engine to do things your way, Naruto-chan. Calm down and synchronize with it. Let it flow through you and become part of you. Yeah? Said the Toad. As Naruto's eyebrow twitched violently. The hell, he can't force it. Time skip. Hidan ripped his arm out of a chain that held it prisoned, finally managed to get it free. His hand was completely mangled, the bones crushed violently. He's been trying to get free for 2 whole weeks. Well, that was his best guess anyway. The damn Hidan that bound him so tightly he was barely able to move a muscle. It took weeks of pulling against the chains to get it to budge. And it then took another few days to get into a position so it can pull at the chains even more. So he could finally loosen the mantle, and he mangled his own hand to get free. Now here he was, waiting for his hand to heal so he can mutilate the rest of his limbs to get away. At least the rest of them would be quit now that he had one hand free. Several hours later, Hidan was lying on his back on that same metal table, waiting for his left foot to get back normal. Crushing your own heel and then wait for it to fix itself was not fun at all. As soon as it was healed, he swung himself onto the floor to get the hell out of here. Unfortunately for him though, his chakra signature was, well, not familiar to the room. So the moment he touched the floor, the same trap that came up, that Obita stepped into, sprang to life. He don't curse and scream as he felt what little chakra he had remained cut off. He quickly moved forward only to slam into a barrier. Hidan's eyes went wide. All this goddamn time. There was a barrier? He slumped down to the ground with the trap activated. Another 20 minutes and he was dead. Well, temporarily dead, since his chakra system was completely out. Meanwhile, Mount Miyaboku, naked and covered in toad oil again, as Naruto felt the beacon at his lap, went off. Apparently, Hidan finally managed to get free. Exactly how stupid do you think I am, Hidan? Naruto thought to himself. As Naruto wasn't stupid enough to just leave him there. Even if he thought that it was hard to escape, there was still a way. After all, the man was immortal. He can do things to his body that normal people can't do. Hidan was just going to be staying there until he got back and turned them off. Slap! Naruto was snapped from his thoughts. You can't space out and think about pretty girls while you're learning Senjutsu, Naruto-chan. Focus. A golden eyebrow and quiver and irritation. He hadn't even been thinking about any girls at the moment, although he really missed Sana. That luscious red hair, those shining red eyes, that perfect body, the way she sank her fangs into his neck when she was just about to whack. Damn it, Naruto-chan, stop thinking whatever you're thinking. Your flagpole is creeping out the lady toads. I swear you're worse than Jiraiya-chan. Naruto snickered. What a bunch of ridiculous toads. They weren't even the same species. Why did they care if he was at full mass? Time skip. You've done it, Naruto-chan. You mastered Senjutsu, said Fukazaku with pride in his voice, as Naruto opened his eyes now golden, with toad-like bars instead of pupils, and an orange pigmentation on his iris. It took him a while, but he managed to synchronize with Enji, just like what Fukazaku taught him. Why then did it feel so uncomfortable? Don't get me wrong, he felt more powerful than before, but using Senjutsu like this, it felt strange. He felt more at peace, passive, and accepting. But Uzumaki Naruto was not passive and accepting. He couldn't afford to be. He still had so much more to do and so far to go. The threat of Akatsuki didn't matter to him. They have already proven themselves incapable of stopping him. But he couldn't allow himself to slow down until he was immortal. He could not be passive to accept the fact that he was immortal. Now I know that standing and gathering sage mode in battle would be near to impossible. So Ma and I would work on fusing with you, and also helping you, and train you the Furakata. Naruto narrowed his eyes to remember when Chiyo had feel his chakra and realized the Bichu was inside of him. And he couldn't allow that information get out yet. And he knew that these toads would tell Jiraiya about it. I don't think that's a good idea. The Kyuubi doesn't really play nice to others. That should be a good enough excuse. Still, it is work. At least I've tried, said Fukazaku. I have no idea what will happen if we try that. So let me try to find an ulterior route first, said Naruto. Alright, I guess there is no harm in trying to find another way, the old toad said. After that, Naruto was left alone and he allowed the natural energy to leave his body, as he sensed that self of peace leave him. There would be no peace for him until he was immortal, and he could call Zana his wife. Honestly, he could now see that he was a poor choice as a toad sage. The toads are a good company, and he rather liked Yamabunta, but their version of sage mode rubbed him wrong. He would have preferred to learn sage mode from more predatory summons, but he didn't know any. Well, he supposed the snakes were predatory, but it would have been rather hard to convince Orochimaru to give a snake summon contract. He shook off that thought. Senjutsu was better than no Senjutsu, even if he didn't like the feeling side effect. He turned towards the other matter, how to gather nature energy without staying still. Fuinjutsu. It will probably take a while to gather enough energy and store it into a Fuinjutsu seal and allow it to process through his body without overwhelming him, but he will find a way. But he's gonna need a real powerful seal, as Fuinjutsu was quite well unstable at sometimes. And it would be hard for him to turn the stone given his chakra density was so thick and dense. But that wasn't a problem. To gather so much energy, it will need to be painted on his skin. As he started to think about a seal to do all of that, suddenly ideas smacked him as he realized something as he channeled some chakra towards his stomach. The Reaper Dead seal then appeared, sitting so innocently on his skin. It was a seal empowered by a god, decided to hold the most powerful demon in existence. It was connected to his chakra network, and it released small amount of demonic chakra into his system so he could get used to it. He had fiddled with it enough so he knew it within and without. He smirked. He just have to change its purposes, and it was empty at the moment, just waiting to get filled with something else. Something like natural energy. As Zana had so much chakra, and the seal held it at bay, that means he could at least store a week of Senjutsu energy inside. Maybe even forever if he find a way to tweak the seal so he can absorb natural energy on its own, while at the same time releasing it into his coils. Still grinning, he got to work. Time skip. Jiraiya was currently in Snavy's office along with Snavy, as he received word that he needed to summon Naruto and Fukazaku, as it made him think that something had gone wrong. As he went through hand signs, as he slammed his hand on the floor, as the seal array spread. I already said I was sorry, damn it. How was I supposed to know that was going to happen? Naruto's voice came in as he was summoned. What the hell do you think was going to happen, you stupid tadpole? You can't just do something like that without any consequences, said Fukazaku as he yelled back. But no one ever told me that something like that was even possible. From the way that you were talking, it seemed like there wasn't any kind of limit on this thing. As Naruto walked out of the office, without even glancing towards Jiraiya or Snavy, the both of them blinked in confusion as they turned towards the angry-looking Toad. What happened? Jiraiya asked. He was glad that Naruto was safe, but this looked serious. He also saw the Reaper Dead seal and it looked a bit different. Instead of a small spiral with some seals extended outwards, the spiral went straight up to his chest with the strips going all over, and some different piece of scripts that connected all those lines that circular pattern. Not to mention the seal wasn't visible like that for no reason. Your idiot apprentice pulled most of the natural energy of Mount Miyamoku into himself. That is what happened. Fukazaku yelled, still agitated. The two of them looked at the small Toad, as they were unable to process that. Maybe you should start from the beginning, said Snavy. Fukazaku took a deep breath, as he calmed himself to explain. Naruto-chan had mastered Senjutsu, and we were just going on to fuse with him, but he said that the Kyuubi probably wouldn't let it happen, and let him try something else. Snavy and Jiraiya nodded. Jiraiya was also brimming, as he was proud of his godson for mastering Senjutsu. Well, I saw no harm within it, so I left him alone. Since he already learned how to master and control the natural energy, there was no harm of him turning to stone, so I leave him alone to get accustomed to it. As Fukazaku started to get angry again, well, apparently I should have known better than to leave him alone out there. Me and Ma were woken up that night when we felt massive amount of natural energy being drawn somewhere. Too much for a single person. We went to investigate and find Naruto boy channel it all into himself, but he was not balancing it with his chakra. Wait a minute, shouldn't that have turned him into stone? Said Snavy. From what she knew, she was correct. If you didn't balance the energy properly, it would turn into stone. It should have, but the damn fool was funneling into the Reaper Dead seal and sealed away. But how? The Kyuubi is already in there, said Jiraiya. From what I've been able to gather so far, he made some addition to the seal to allow him to pull in that natural energy, but keep it separated from its chakra network so it wouldn't be able to turn him to stone. Jiraiya couldn't believe it. That was quite the achievement. But there was one thing that still needed answering. Then, why do you sound so mad if everything went alright? Asked Jiraiya confused. Because, Jiraiya-chan, no one was ever meant to pull that amount of natural energy out of the environment. It will take decades, maybe even a century before Mount Miyamoku will be able to teach another sage. But how is that possible? Jiraiya said, as he was shocked. There was a limit to natural energy? Natural energy built up in areas where there's a great vibrancy of life. That is actually how the summon clans came to be. The life force of the environment evolved us into more than just animals. If it wasn't for that, Miyamoku would just be a mountain full of regular toad. When a sage drawn in natural energy, he take on the characteristic that the energy is most familiar with there, and also he get power by the energy of the natural world. When sage does that, they bore the energy, and when they enter sage mode, it get released back into the natural environment. But what Naruto-chan did was seal it within himself and keeping it in person, just like with the Kyuubi. As there was a long silence, Jiraiya and Snavy couldn't believe it. So, what happens now? Stealing all the natural energy from Mount Miyamoku was a big deal, and Jiraiya knew there would be some consequences. The other toads are very angry. Ma is angry. Hell, even I'm angry. And the old Geisha sage is angry as well. There was talk of removing Naruto-chan from his toad summoning scroll, and it looked like it's gonna happen. Can't Naruto just go back to Mount Miyamoku and release the natural energy back into the environment? He didn't do it on purpose after all, Jiraiya said, as he never heard of a summoning contract being broken before, and he knew they must be really angry if it was considering it, and he didn't want his godson to be rejected by the toads. I don't know, but I wouldn't get my hopes up. He'd probably get turned to stone if he tried to release it all at once, and even in that case, it would still be trapped inside him. Fukazaku grumbled. Well, we might as well ask him. Maybe he knew how to release it safely. Time skip. The envoys had brought Naruto back before he got too far, and Snan just asked him if he could release the natural engine. No. Not without killing myself, said Naruto. But why not? If you manage to get the engine in, surely it wouldn't be that hard to get it back out, said Snavy. Because I got the seal set up to run the natural engine through my coils, and they return back in the seal once I'm done using it. If I try to direct it outwards, it would clash inside of my coils, causing them to rupture, and turn me into stone right after, said Naruto. His original plan was just to seal it away inside the Reaper Dead seal, and then release it into the environment when he was done. But he found out that natural engine wasn't like chakra at all. It didn't get expended after being used. When a sage used up the sage chakra, it was burst back into the environment when it was used up, not like normal chakra that dissipated. This meant that natural engine was like recyclable, for a lacker term. And he tweaked his seal so it would recycle back into his coils, not back into the environment. But he was kind of lying, he could release it. It would have taken a long while, but having his power trapped with him forever, to use as he see fit, was too much to let go. The toads were just gonna have to suck up the fact that it would take a while for Moat Miyaboku to regenerate to his usual state. The way they were frigging out, you would think that it was permanent. Damn it, Naruto. Didn't you promise Sana that you'll be more careful, said Snavy. Hey, I was being careful, said Naruto. I tested things thoroughly, and I knew I was going to be fine. The only problem is no one told me that natural energy is a finite resource. I didn't know that either, said Jiraiya. Since you can't release it safely, I guess that is the end of it then. I don't think it would do us any good anyway, said Fukazaku, who had been silent the entire time. Said Naruto. You've only become a sage, so I'm not surprised you can't tell yet, he said. Tell what? Asked Jiraiya, as he didn't sense anything. You never completely mastered Senjutsu, Jiraiya-chan, so I'm not surprised you can't sense anything. I can feel the natural energy changing within Naruto-chan. Even if he did change it, it would be too different for him to release back at Moat Miyaboku. I guess we're just going to wait for it to be replenished naturally. Naruto wanted to grin, but he did not. If the old toad said that the engine was changing, that could mean it was adapting to fit him perfectly. That would mean he would get the maximum output of Senjutsu, because he would be suited to him perfectly. Not to mention, since it was inside of him, he wouldn't have to stand still and direct it. Sacrificing ability to summon toads for something like this. Screw summoning, he thought to himself. Summoning back in 2 days. We'd have come to a decision about Naruto's summoning contract by then. Fukazaku said that sigh as he burst into smoke as he went back home. Time skip. Naruto was in his apartment, his legs folded, his eyes closed, meditating. Zana was on a nearby couch eating ice cream as she looked at him with interest. She was very happy to have him back, and more powerful than ever. They have already gotten reacquainted already 9 times. But what truly held her interest right now was his latest mad genius technique. As far as she knew, no one ever kept Senjutsu locked inside their body, so she was quite curious to see what would come of it. As Naruto entered stage mode, as his eyes turned toad-like, as Zana could feel it change in Naruto. The natural engine wasn't finished mutating, as Naruto knew as he started circulating through his system. As Naruto started to change it, tricking it, the toad imprint that it had for Mount Miyaboku started to slowly leave the sage engine. Soon after that, he started to take on characteristics of his new home. The Reaper Dead seal had been the cage of the Kyuubi for 15 years, and it remembered the characteristics of the demon that once lived there. As the natural engine moved through its coils, it forgot about the peaceful home where it came from, and it started to adapt to the rootfulness of what was within the seal. As Zana watched as the orange pigmentation around his eyes vanished, along with that toad feeling, new markings start to appear. The whisker marks start to extend as he turned to straight black lines, more thicker and pronounced. Along the side of his eyes, more black markings appear. They were thicker and curved. The upper curve reached near to his eyebrow, while a longer one went down near to his first whisker mark. Now she felt a sense of danger, not peacefulness or nature natural. She felt danger oozing from him. It took at least 2 hours for this entire process and Naruto to stop. As he opened his eyes, they were orange like fire, with slits in them. How do you feel, beloved? She asked. I feel amazing, he said. Zana shook with pleasure as she felt and heard the way his tone sounded. It sounded so rough, rugged. This was so much better than Toad's style. Naruto's eyes snapped towards her, as he could literally smell her arousal. He was going to take care of that right now, and he could also sense her power now. The cloak that she was putting on to prevent anyone from sensing her full power. He could sense it. A vast ocean of power. As Naruto grabbed at her yukata, intended to take it off, but he heard a ripping sound. Looking at his hands, they were now claws, his fingernails had turned to claws. Zana gasped in surprise, as his claws had break the skin in her human form. That was impressive, even if she did heal immediately. As a smirk came on Naruto's face, he figured she'd have a little fun first before getting to the main event. Seal of Power activate, as his strength was enhanced, and now mixed with the Sage mode, as Naruto pinned her down. Zana gasped, as Naruto wrapped her up in his chains that she couldn't break. Unable to do anything, as Naruto brought her over to the couch as he sat down. Her clothes had been completely gone, and he was wearing nothing right now, as he just held her in mid-air. There were still some powers that she could use even though she was being whole like this, but she was enjoying it, and it would be fun, so why would she want to break free? Time skip. For once, Zana did not move after they were over. She usually still had energy to spare, but at the moment, she couldn't believe what just happened. If she knew that Senjutsu would have made him this more powerful and ravaged with her, she would have seriously considered raping the first Hokage. What is this about raping the first Hokage? Said Naruto. She blinked. You heard me? Of course I did, said Naruto. I didn't say anything, beloved. I only thought it. As Naruto realized that her lips weren't moving. Wait, are you saying I can read your mind now? He said. As Zana saw how happy he was. There will be time to talk about that later though. We're not done yet, she said, as she was too excited to let one stop her. She was going to have much more fun. Time skip. Hours later, the both of them were currently lying down, as Zana had her eyes closed, just enjoying the wonderful feeling, as the both of them were in bliss after just having the most amazing time together. The both of them being able to awaken the mind link now. It was like a mind mixed with body experience, soul and mind together. It was just beyond amazing. They had no idea how long they'd been going at it. They had lost track of time. As Zana saw how powerful he was becoming, it gave her hope, as it seemed like Naruto could do anything, that he would find a way to become immortal and stay with her forever. Will you marry me now? Naruto asked into her ear. She decided to ask in a teasing tone. You think you're strong enough already? I was able to overpower you, was I, said Naruto, with a smirk. You're assuming I wasn't just letting you think that, she asked. I can read your mind now, remember? I know that you weren't letting me do anything, he said, his grin still on his face. You're assuming I wasn't purposely giving you those thoughts, she said. You can't do that, he said. Can't I? She asked. Naruto was new to this, so as far as he knew, she could do something like that, but he could feel that she was amused. Seeing that look on his face. You're just messing with me, aren't you? She burst out laughing. I am, she said, as she calmed herself down. So, was I actually able to overpower you? I suppose you did. Though in my human form, much of my chakra is sustained to keep the complexity of this form and keep the rest of my power at bay. Well, I think it would be harder to sustain the body of a giant nine-tailed fox in Naruto. You would think that, wouldn't you? She said. But despite appearances, the giant fox body is actually rather simple. In that form, I have no gender, no organs, no blood, nothing else of real noteworthy either. It's basically just a physical manifestation of my power. Almost like your chains, but on a much more greater scale. All Bichus have a default form that was given to us by the Sage of Six Path. The Sandaime though can create his body from pure sand, but his mind is lacking in the department of thinking. So you're basically saying that you're much more powerful as a giant fox in Naruto. Yes, of course, but I will admit you've become very strong. So, will you marry me? Said Naruto, as she hummed a bit to herself. Well, I did say I would marry someone that was only my equal in power. You know, I come to the conclusion that you only said that to get me off your back, said Naruto. Oh? If that is the reason, then why are you still trying to get stronger? Oddly enough, he was right for the most part. When this thing started, she had no real intention of marrying him. She just said that for him to get stronger, for him to better be able to protect himself. But after a while, that no intention of marrying him turned into something a lot more. Well, said Naruto, I figured it didn't really matter, as long as I got you to become my wife. She shook her head at his reasoning. So you might as well just give in, said Naruto, and marry me already. She knew that she loved him, and she had no objection of becoming married to him at this point. Not to mention he became so much more powerful. But, well, I would like to marry you. Truly I would, she said. But I don't agree with the till. Death do us part of the marriage part. So you're gonna have to do something about that first. You know, I was gonna do that anyway. You're giving me a hard time about this on purpose, aren't you? Would I really do a thing like that, she said, in an innocent tone. Yes, you would, said Naruto. Yeah, you're right, she said. It's the small things in life, such as giving your favorite human a hard time, make everything more better. Well, if that's the case, I'm sure you would like it when this human gave you a hard time, of a different source. Your puns really suck, Naruto, she said. Keep talking and I'll give you something to suck on. I'm gonna make you regret saying that, as she manifested her tail and flipped him over, as she took the top position, as her tail pinned him down on his back. As Naruto deactivated the physical strength seals, so their strength level was about equally active right now, and given the position he was in, he couldn't escape. But despite that, he didn't stop struggling. If she thought he was going to just lie back and allow her to do as she pleased like when he was 16-year-old, she had another thing coming. He was going to take control of the situation as soon as the opportunity presented itself. Time skip. Onfu, Yujeu, Uzuki, also known as Kat, made her way towards Naruto's apartment, carefully. It wasn't like she was looking to be attacked or anything, but she heard some rumors about the blonde Uzumaki, and there was no sense in taking chance, as everyone knew Naruto and his reputation by now, especially amongst Onfus. For one thing, he was one of the strongest ninjas in the village right now, and it was a bad thing just to enter through the window of a SealMaster. It was her squad that had found him after his incomplete attack, and she had saw the damage that one thing had done. And it was incomplete, which was why she approached slowly and knocked on the door, instead of just showing up out of nowhere. But after knocking 3 times, there was no answer. So she tried to open it, and it was open. The scene that greeted her made her draw her sword instantly, as she saw claw marks in the walls, blood stains. The furniture were in a similar state. Some of them appeared to be broken with blunt force. She kneeled down and looked at the ground. It looked like someone was slammed into it to break the ground. 2 smaller broken areas looked like someone had been pressing their knees into the floor too hard, as it was like someone was forcefully placed on their knees. As she felt her blood boil because it looked like a woman was raped, and she was trying to fight back. She had seen things like this before, but it was usually on bare earth, not tile grounds. Still, she did her best to keep her head cool and not jump to any conclusion. Despite his reputation of being a raging pervert, there hasn't been any sexual attempts that were done out of harassment from the Uzumaki. Moving toward what she thought was a bedroom, she lowered her blade when she saw the reason why the apartment was in such a mess. The bed that the 2 of them were on looked like someone had ripped chunks out of it with brute force. Both of them were snoring rather loudly, which made her wonder how she didn't heard it before. Out of curiosity, she took a step back, and the sound was cut off. She figured that it was some sort of sound barrier by Fumijutsu. The reason why Naruto had created this was because of all the complaints about the sound coming from his apartment, and was getting on his nerves. She moved back into the room. He was quite, well, open, despite them being within Konoha. After all, the door was left open, and anyone could just walk in. He needed to report to the Hokage. Uzumaki-san, she said, as she expected him to wake up. Considering that most would have woken up the moment she entered the apartment, this wasn't unreasonable. But both blonde and redhead continued to snore. Uzumaki-san, she said a bit louder. In response, he grumbled something. Now starting to get angry, she stepped closer. Uzumaki-san, she said a bit louder, as she had dropped her guard, so she was not ready when chains shot from his back and wrapped her in her arms, as he placed her on the bed in a spread eagle position. As she saw orange slitted eyes and red slitted eyes looking at her, as both Zana and Naruto pinned a part of her body. Naruto holding onto her right leg and right arm, Zana holding onto her left leg and left arm. She realized they were far stronger than her, as she could not even move. She had no idea what happened to the Uzumaki blue eyes, but now they had a predator look in them, a mixture of orange and gold. She assumed the change in eye color and the mark on his face had something to do with the Kyuubi. What do you want? Said Naruto, his voice rumbling in irritation of being woken from his nap. There had been very little sleep for him lately, and he was not happy about it being interrupted. Hokage-sama sent me to get you. You were supposed to report to our office an hour ago, Yujiro said in a neutral tone, as she felt deeply uncomfortable about being pinned under 2 naked people, both of them reeking of sex. What the hell does tits want this early in the morning? Said Naruto as he yawned, as she saw his sharp teeth. As he remembered something about 2 days about sitting at the office, but that was buried under 2 days of sex and sleep deprivation, and the fact that he just woke up. It's noon, Uzumaki-san, said Yujiro. And you shouldn't refer to Hokage-sama so disrespectfully. During this conversation, Zana was looking at the mask, but she got bored by it as she reached up and removed it. Yujiro glared at Redhead that they remove her mask. Onvu was always supposed to remain masked while on duty, and it was shameful to have the mask removed by force. "Give me my mask back and release me," she said. She hasn't made any demands yet because Uzumaki seemed to be just waking up, so it was probably just defenses for she stepping in. But now that her mask was removed, things had crossed a line. "I say we rape her for interrupting us," said Zana, as she ran a claw hand down Yujiro's cheek. Yujiro snapped towards her. She didn't know what to say. She couldn't comprehend. To know that just came from her. First Ino and now her? "Are you going to suggest that we bend Tsunade over her next?" said Naruto. Zana's eyes gleamed at his words, deeply unnerving Yujiro. "An excellent suggestion, beloved." That silly girl was rather unsatisfying. Zana was loving the fact that Naruto loved to play these mind games on people with her, as Yujiro didn't know that it was just a cruel joke. So her mind started to come up with the image of the young Yamanaka clan member being raped by these two deviants. She didn't believe that someone as powerful as Tsunade could end up in that situation. Well, she never thought it would happen to her either. "Let go of me," she said angrily. She was going to report the both of them to the Hokage immediately. "Calm down, will you? We didn't do anything to Ino, and we won't do anything to you." "It was just a joke," said Naruto. "Some joke," she shot back. "So, release me." "Whatever," said Naruto with a shrug. "I'd rather rape Zana anyway, again. You took away my fun with this one, so I'm gonna rape you first," she said. "I'd like to see you try, especially since the rape score is 101 for me and 99 for you." Yujiro blinked. "A rape score?" she thought to herself. Zana snarled at him for the reminder of her defeat, even though it wasn't in combat. Her pride will not take that as she launched herself at the blonde, completely, not caring about the Anvu. Before the day was out, that score will be turned back to her favor. As Yujiro watched as the both of them went at it with more viciousness than you would even see in a shinobi battle, as they were clawing and biting at each other. As blood was spilling, things were getting destroyed, as Naruto turned and used his strength and pressed her into a wall. "Hey!" Yujiro said, as she was snapped out of her, daze. She couldn't believe what was actually going on right in front of her, as she stopped him just in time from adding another point to his rape score. The both of them turned to glare at her. Couldn't the woman tell that they were in the middle of something? "You're supposed to be reporting to the Hokage," she said, as she flinched a bit at their glare. Their glare remained on her for a few moments, before Naruto grunted, "Shower." She sighed in relief. At least they were going to restrain themselves. But after they got in, it seems not. All she saw him do was drag Zana straight towards the bathroom, tied up in his chains. It sounds like the redhead was completely getting off on this. As her cheeks turned a bit red, she quickly put on back her mask and left the apartment. She had done what her Hokage had asked and informed the Uzumaki that he needed to show up in the office. She didn't care if he didn't take another day to show up, but she was never, ever, never coming back to his apartment ever again. Time skip. Tsunade was glaring at Naruto. He didn't arrive on time for the Toads to tell him what they was going to do about the summoning contract. And he came 2 hours late, even after she sent Anbu to fetch him. As Kat was reluctant to speak about the interaction, she just told her that she informed him. Naruto for his part turned off sage mode. He kept it up for 2 days, and he didn't notice any side effects, except it made him a bit more, aggravated. Needless to say, he loved it, but he figured that Jiraiya and Tsunade might need to see him activate it before he just walked into the office with sage mode activated. Is there any particular reason you decide not to show up to a meeting where your association with the Toads will be decided? Asked Tsunade. She couldn't believe that you blew off something like this. He was always on time. Now he would show up late for something this important. "Well, it's not like I decided not to show up. It's just that I lost track of time," he said. "I didn't even know what day it was until that Anbu showed up at my place." "What the hell have you been doing for the past 2 days if you couldn't even tell what day it was?" asked Jiraiya. "I've been continuously raping Zana," he said, completely serious. The both of them looked at him. "What?" said Jiraiya, being the first to get his voice back. "Don't worry," said Naruto. "She raped me back. It was awesome." As the both of them looked at him like he was insane. Yeah, Tsunade was right. It seems like these two were meant for each other, and they were both beyond crazy. But guys, if you end up so right here, if you want to next part of this, do like, subscribe, comment below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. Remember to share with all of your friends and social media platform. But more for now, see you guys soon. Peace.